Howdy, friends. Thanks so much for joining us here. Really appreciate you all joining in for our workshop here with Chris Coole. And we'll get started in just a second as we continue to let everybody else in. And we are here with Kathy Fink and Chris. Why don't you, the two of you, say hey?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for showing up this lovely Saturday afternoon. At least afternoon where I am.
Hi,
Kathy?
everybody. Kathy Fink here. So, Chris is up in Toronto. I'm in Lansing, North Carolina, and Brad is in Baltimore. And who would have ever imagined, even 5 years ago, that we could do something like this? It's kind of uh, crazy and wonderful, and a holding place replacement for everybody being together. But we've found from the first workshop that we did with Adam Hurt that it was really an awesome experience. And Brad and I are really happy to be able to have organized this and happy that you're all participating. Really thrilled to have Chris Coole with us today.
Yeah, I'm here in Baltimore, and it's a lovely day. And yeah, we had a great workshop with Adam to start, and I know a number of you were in that workshop. And as you poke around here on Zoom, you'll see that you're with about 85 of your closest banjo friends. So there are a lot of people here, which is incredible, and just a real testament to Chris's playing and how much folks are excited to learn. You'll notice that you are muted, and you will be muted throughout the workshop. There may be times where we unmute you to chime in with a question, but for the most part, you will remain unmuted. And speaking of the chat, which is over there on the bottom right, we will try to respond to your questions as quickly as we can. And Kathy and I may jump in at random times and ask Chris and pass along a question so he can focus on teaching. But we would like to keep that chat box just for questions. And we'll be able to share your thanks and everything at the end, and we may even get everybody on screen at the same time and unmute you all, and you can all say thanks, and it'll just sound like chaos. But it'll be a fun way to close it out. But until then, we'll just use the chat for just for questions, and Kathy and I will try to pass those along. And for those of you who perhaps get kicked out of this meeting for some reason, if your internet goes down, or if you can't, you should be able to rejoin Zoom. But if you can't, for some reason, there is a YouTube link that features the workshop being streamed, and I sent that to you in your email about 5 minutes ago. So you can check your email and find that YouTube link, and then we'll also send you a recording of the workshop afterwards. So, anything else, Kathy?
No, I think sorry, Marcy came and delivered me some tea, so I missed the last thing you said, and hopefully I'm not repeating. But as you all know, you're going to get a link to a recording of this workshop, and we just ask you all to please remember that you paid for the workshop, and please don't make it public. Don't pass it on to your friends. This is an opportunity that we created, and you all participated in a way that not only gives you a chance to learn a bunch of stuff, but gives us a chance to pay these performers. And so, just like any other scenario, if you'll respect that, that would be really awesome.
Great. Well, I'll introduce Chris here, who's been one of my favorite players for many years, and he's perhaps one of the finest banjo players ever come out of Canada, and just in old time music in general. And I think I learned his tune "Skating on the Harbor Front" maybe about 10 years ago. That was one of the very first tunes I ever learned by ear, and I got it from that old time banjo festival recording, Kathy, that you sent to me many years back. And you can catch him performing with the Lonesome Ace String Band. He's great albums and some solo records as well. And he's going to really entertain us and educate us all here for this next hour and a half. So if you all, I know that you can't hear you, but if you could all just clap or wave, let Chris know you're here,
Yeah,
and
we
we'll
can do
get
the sign
started.
language
We'll
clap.
get yeah the sign language clap. We'll get started with Chris Coole's workshop, and Chris, you're on. All you.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Brad and Kathy. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. Been looking forward to it all week. Yeah, so we're going to do a workshop here that I teach sometimes when I'm doing camps. I often call it building tunes from the ground up, or building tunes in levels. And it came from, I've taught an awful lot of camps over the years, and there's just always, when I would ask at the beginning of the week, what do people want to do? Um, what I would hear, the common things where people would say, well, I'd love to be able to break away from tablature, or I'd love to, my teacher shows me a way of playing a tune, and I can do that, and then I just play it the exact same way a gazillion times, and I can't change it. Or I'd like to be able to take a tune that I hear, on a recording or something, and come up with an arrangement of it. Or I'd like to, I learn a tune and I go to a jam session, and I end up with, I no, they maybe play a tune that I've learned, and it's totally different, or different enough, that what I used to playing doesn't work over the tune. So want to be able to pick up tunes on the fly, and have my versions be more malleable. So that's sort of, after hearing that so many times, I started to sort of think about what the reasons are that people have that problem, and how I could maybe come up with a strategy for how to build up your tunes. And there's a few things that really occurred to me, that became apparent to me when I was thinking about this. First off, it seemed like what was happening was people were trying to, like, if they wanted to be here, they might have been down here, and they were trying to jump all the way from down here all the way to up here. And what seemed really obvious to me was, like, man, there's a lot of, first of all, you'd have a better chance of getting there is if you took a few steps in between. And second of all, the stuff that's down here is awesome. Like, the stuff on the steps on the way up is not to be missed. And in fact, this sort of relies on all of this. So the other thing that became really apparent to me, so often I'd have people in my classes that they could often play several tunes, some of them had actually quite a large repertoire. And it sort of became really obvious to me that a lot of these people, if you can play about 20 tunes, do your drop thumb and your double thumb and all that, someone who can play 20 tunes probably has every tool they need to play the other 2,000 tunes. But what they're not understanding is sort of what they can already do and how it works. I get a clear understanding of the tools that they have at hand and the application of those tools. So that's what we're going to start. We're going to be looking at here. We're going to be looking at what you have, what your resources are as far as techniques go, and then building the tunes up from the ground floor, and how to relate some of the techniques that you have to what you're hearing in your ear. So let's get started. So one thing you should know about me is, in my opinion, and all of this is going to be in my opinion. I'm going to give a blanket statement here. Everything I say is in my opinion. So don't go tell on me to other banjo players, because they might have a different opinion. But in my opinion, 99% of everything you will ever play in clawhammer could be broken down into 6 techniques. 3 right hand techniques, 3 left hand techniques. Okay? We can probably all do them, but unless you understand what they do and what they allow you to do, you don't really have all it's going to be is a memory game to you. So we're gonna look at the what our 6 right hand techniques are, and we're going to start by imposing limitations on ourselves and restricting ourselves to only maybe 1 or 2 of the techniques at a time, and build up the tune. So what are the 6 techniques? So the 3 right hand techniques are the basic strum, double thumbing, and drop thumbing. Now, this is a folk style, so there's different nomenclature. So what I refer to as double thumbing, somebody else might have a different name. But as we go through, I'll explain what they all are. So we've got basic strum, double thumbing, and drop thumbing with our left hand. And with our right hand, we've got three main, or with our left hand, we've got three main ornaments, which are hammer on, pull off, and slide. To me, you could take everything I've played in the past 30 years and I could basically break it down and show you how everything is just some combination of that. Now, on one hand, that's going to be really simple because we just got to figure out, well, there's only 6 things. But of course, there's a gazillion combinations that those 6 things can be used in, can be put together. So what becomes really helpful is to impose some limitations as you work towards building up a tune. So we're going to be working on a tune that you all know today. So this is not about the tune that we're learning today, okay? This is about the procedure that we're learning it and the sort of the strategy. So the tune we're going to look at is Old Joe Clark. So we're going to start. We may look at another tune depending on how far we get through this. But we're going to start with Old Joe Clark simply because it's a very common melody that we probably all know. So let's pretend right now that Old Joe Clark is just a brand new thing to us. So we've gone online or something and we have a CD or an MP3 and we hear this tune. Old Joe Clark, and it's maybe it doesn't even have a banjo in it. Maybe it's just a fiddle and a guitar, and it's the most beautiful thing we've ever heard in our life. And you say to yourself, God, I gotta learn that tune. How am I gonna do that? I know how to do a few things, but how do I? I've shown me how to play a few tunes, but how do I take that beautiful music I'm hearing, that fiddle and the guitar? How do I get that melody and get it onto the banjo and apply what I know to allow myself to play that tune? Okay, so before we and don't worry, we will get our hands dirty and we will start touching the instrument in a minute. But before we do, I want to talk a little bit about the starting point, okay? Because this is where we're at right now, and this I realize is a real sort of key moment in these arrangements that can sometimes throw people. Here's something I would need you to do right now. I need you to say this. Repeat after me. There is no one right way to play any melody. There is no one right way to play any melody. Okay, this is really important. I've realized that people not realizing this is one of the things that totally screws people up and makes them completely intimidated. So I did another workshop recently where I was looking at variations on tunes, and I needed a starting point, and I started with a tune called Rock the Cradle Joe. And I looked on Spotify and I put in Rock the Cradle Joe, and there was 35 versions of Rock the Cradle Joe on Spotify. Then I looked on YouTube and there was 100 versions. I stopped at 100 versions on YouTube. So what you got to take from this is that there is, every tune that you learn to play, you're only going to be learning it one way, and the arrangement that you end up with, you can't ever think that that's going to fit with everybody else's arrangement. So you have to have a starting point, but it's really important to know. So maybe you have this recording of Old Joe Clark that you love, and you want to learn to play it on the banjo. One thing that I think is really important at your starting point is you got to know that that's just one version of the tune. So if you can, listen to as many versions of a tune as possible so you can end up with a sort of a middle ground. So you've listened to enough versions of the tune that you've got a general idea of the melody. Now, of course, the number one thing you have to do at this point before you touch your fingers to the banjo is you have to be able to hum the melody that you're trying to play. This is so important, folks. Can't tell you how many times I've been in lessons and somebody's like struggling and sweating and freaking out, and I tell them, take your hands off the banjo for a second and hum me the thing that you're trying to play. And inevitably, they have no clue what the music is that they're trying to play. All it is a bunch of numbers and hammer-ons and all sorts of crap that they're trying to remember. And it's just a big mess. You have to be able to hum the thing you're trying to play. So let's pretend we've got this tape of recording of Old Joe Clark. We'll just look at the first part of Old Joe Clark. Now you all know we're all probably going to hear Old Joe Clark a little bit different because there's a zillion versions of the tune. But the way I hear it is, and I'll just sort of hum a real generic version of it. I'm thinking da 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 ba 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 ba. Da 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 da. Okay, so do that. Da 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 da. Bum 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 bum. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So now that's great that we can do that, but like now how do we, it's like I got one tune where I do all these hammer-ons, and then I got this other tune where my hand's doing this all the time, and then I've got this other tune that somebody taught me and my thumb's going, and like, should I do that now, or should I do, like, maybe I should, Okay, so here's the trick. What we're going to do is we're going to impose limitations on ourselves to build this tune up. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to pretend we don't know how to do anything with our left hand but fret a note, okay? So you don't know how to do a hammer-on, you don't know how to do a pull-off, you don't know how to do a slide, okay? So all you know how to do is put your finger down on a note, okay? And with our right hand, all we know how to do is the basic strum. So by the basic strum, there's different names for all this stuff. The basic strum, what I'm talking is just like boom chukka, the old single note rest brush fifth string, boom chukka. That's what I'm talking about. So often when I'm explaining this stuff, I'll hold up 4 fingers, and each one of these fingers represents a beat within that basic strum. So beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4, okay? So the basic strum looks like this. There's a single note on beat 1, rest, brush, fifth string. So boom, boom, rest, chukka, boom, rest, chukka, boom, rest, chukka. Okay? Hopefully that's making sense to you all. You probably all know how to do that at least. So let's look at what the basic strum allows us to do. So what happens in the basic strum? On beat 1, we play a single note. Okay, so that's cool. That's our melody. Okay, that thing that happens on beat 1 is our melody. On beat 2 is nothing. We got nothing on beat 2. Beat 3, we've got a strum, and beat 4 is a fifth string. So this is actually the only melody note. This stuff back here, I think of this as rhythm, and I know if you're anything like me, one of the things that attracted me to this style of banjo was, I remember I started playing bluegrass banjo, but I remember hearing a recording of Doc Watson playing, and I thought it was the most incredible thing I'd ever heard, and it sounded like 2 banjos, and to me this brush and fifth string at the back end of the basic strum is sort of what gives a lot of the magic to this style of playing. But it's very, that basic strum is very melodically restricted because there's only the one melody note, right? Boom, rest, chukka, boom, rest, chukka. Okay, so we're going to start to get into Old Joe Clark. But look, you all know how to play Old Joe Clark. As we build this up, don't start playing Old Joe Clark the way you already know how to play it. If you do that, it's a fail, okay? It's about showing how simple we can make Old Joe Clark. That's the point of this. Don't start playing it the way you already know how to play it. I can't tell you how many times I've been in classes where I've had to tell somebody who's sort of advanced in some ways, when they'll ask me about something, and I'll have to end up telling them, yeah, you can't play that because you're not good enough to play something that simple, which seems sort of mean, and it also seems sort of weird, but it's actually really hard to play something simple. A lot of times with us banjo players, especially us clawhammer players, the trick is hearing just the bare essentials of the melody and scaling it back. And a lot of times, a lot of the stuff, these first few stages, even though they're going to be really simple, don't think they're basic. They're actually being able to just hear the skeleton of the melody, in my opinion, is an advanced technique in clawhammer. So many banjo players can't hear the stripped down melody, and that's the thing that prevents them from moving forward. They get sucked in, you get lured in by melody notes that you actually don't want to be playing a lot of the time. Okay? So remember what our restriction is. Our restriction is we can only fret notes with our left hand. We can only do the basic strum with our right hand. So that leaves us with our basic strum, and it leaves us with boom, rest, chaka. We've got one melody note. So check it out. Here's my $1 million tip for learning how to play any melody with just the basic strum. Are you ready for this, people? Okay. We're going to sing Old Joe Clark one more time. Beautiful. Okay, now we're going to sing Old Joe Clark, but instead of going bom 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 or whistling it or whatever you were doing it, we're going to say boom chaka while we sing it. We're still going to sing it, but we're going to say the word boom chaka. We're going to go boom chaka 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 boom boom chaka 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 boom chaka. Okay, I see one person writing something down. Look, I'm going to give you a really good overview of this, and I'm going to email it. You do not need to take notes while we do this. You're going to have everything you need. Okay, so just stick with me. So what we've done, because remember, the only melody note in the basic strum is on this boom of boom chaka. So by singing it, what we can hear as I go through here, I go boom chaka boom chaka boom chaka boom chaka. If I find those notes that I sing when I say the word boom, I'm going to have the only melody notes I need, because remember, we've got restrictions. Only the basic strum, no right or left hand ornaments. So let's pick through. Let's see. So let's find where the first one is. Okay, boom, 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 chaka. Now there's notes in there, right? Boom, da, da. You're gonna, when you do this, you're gonna be, oh, I want those, but don't. That's the trap. You're getting sucked into the melody note, and that's literally, I'm telling you folks, that's the thing that screws people up with this. They get sucked into the melody notes. Don't. Boom chaka, forget all that. Boom. Now that's the next one I gotta find. Boom chaka, boom chaka. Okay, where's the next one? Boom chaka, boom chaka. Okay, so what I figured out is that first bar, I've got the open first string, the third fret of the first string, then the open first string again, then the open second string. Boom chaka boom chaka boom chaka boom chaka. Okay, so let's now that I've got those that's just one bar, so that's just 4 notes. But now let's just plug our right hand into that. Okay, so what I'd have is this. I'd have try playing that for me. Yeah, okay. So cool. So then the next bar, okay, boom chaka boom chaka boom chaka boom chaka. Okay, well, what's happening there? I'm finding the open first string, open boom chaka boom. It sort of sits on that open first. So this is a real easy. It's just open, third, open, open. So then I plug my right hand into that. I got boom chaka boom chaka boom chaka boom chaka. Okay, cool. So then I look at the next bar. So the third bar is the exact same as the first bar, that's very common with fiddle tunes. It's going to be open, third, open, open, second. Cool. So that's the same. We know that one. And then the last one, boom chaka boom chaka boom chaka. So boom chaka. Okay, there it is. It's the second fret, Second fret of the third string, boom chugga, boom chugga. So it's open. So what I'm going to end up with, and I'll share the tab with you here. I'll put it up right now, just so you can see what I'm doing here. Can you see that now? Hopefully you can see that.
I
Yeah,
don't
okay. I
think
think
I
you can.
can see it yet. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah, here it is. There we go. Now you can see it. Hopefully, this is what we'd end up with. I'll play it. So I'd have. So give yourself a chance to play through that, and we'll talk about what we've got. I won't play here for a second. I'll just give you a chance to pluck away.
Chris, there's been a question,
Yeah.
just a general question as folks are noodling through here. Do you have any tips on finding melody notes? Caroline's saying that it would take her forever to find those melody notes.
Well, that was the tip. I mean, you could. Okay, so. Okay, but I do have another tip. If you're working from a recording, I mean the thing is you can with this process that we're doing. The thing is you're going to do it at home first of all. This is gonna if you do this at home a bunch of times and learn 20 tunes this way, um, you're going to eventually build up all the skills that you'll need to do this on the fly at a jam session. Okay, and when you're at home you can go as slow as you want to, and you'll have to go. It should take you a long time to do the first one, because if you've never done this before, I mean, you're gonna suck at it the first time, right? You always, no matter what the new skill is, you got to go through some sucking, and the first one might just be like pulling teeth, and then the next one might be a little less like pulling teeth. But the cool thing is you're doing it on your own in your own time. And my one other suggestion would be is you got to invest in some sort of slow downing software. There's tons of it. I use the Amazing Slow Downer. So if you're if you were learning off a recording, there's a lot of options, but they'll allow you to hear the melody super slow, so you can go through and try to get to that point where you can sing that melody. But again, if you can't sing the melody, you're going to be hooped. It's going to be really hard for you to do this, and you're just making everything about twice as hard as it should be. Okay, so we've got step one. We've got the first bar of Old Joe Clark, and some of you are saying, "Well, God, that's like." Okay, let's hear what we got here. Okay. Now, you might not right off the bat recognize that as if I just played that for you as a tune just out of the blue. You might not be like, "Oh, Old Joe Clark, beautiful." But remember, this is step one. There's a lot of tunes that on this first step you are totally recognizable. Old Joe Clark is there's a reason, and we're going to get to it in a second. It's not as recognizable, but before we pass this up, I got to tell you that what I just played as a fiddle backup or a backup for singing would be absolutely perfect. And it's perfect for a few different reasons. First of all, it's perfect because if there was a fiddle player playing dig a dig a dig a dig a dig a dig a dig dig a dig a dig a dig a dig a dig dig a 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 dig even no matter how notey their version of it, no matter pretty much any version of Old Joe Clark, from the notiest to the least notey, that banjo backup is going to work perfectly because you're just outlining those key melody notes. And that, as far as those, going back to that grid of notes, if I had to put my money on a melody note being important out of all of these four, it's going to be this one all the time. This is like your downbeat. And that's going to be almost always be the most important of these four, whatever these four melody notes are. So what you've got here is you've got this, what you've got a way of focusing in on what's going to probably be the most important melody note, but what you're lacking with some of the other melody notes you're making up with, which is you've got this badass rhythm section back here. You've got some brushing and some fifth strings. I always say that I always think of the basic strum is like John Fogerty and Tom Fogerty. This is your lead guitar player up here at the front, but back here is Tom Fogerty playing rhythm guitar for his brother and making him sound like a genius. So you got two things going on here. Again, it's like when you're working with this, especially with this basic strum, but I think always when you're a clawhammer banjo player, it's like you're being an impressionist painter, and you have to you're just seeing like the blurrier, larger sort of sense of a scene as opposed to the true detail. Okay, cool. So that's step one. Okay, I've got step two. We're going to go to step two. We're going to start adding, but there's a little trick with the basic strum. I often think that I wish that I could just teach, when I'm teaching people, that I could just teach them the basic strum and then force them to go away for a whole year and only use that basic strum. Because in my opinion, most people don't know how, even though it's the first thing we all learn how to play, we don't learn how to use it well enough. And we learn a couple tunes, and then we learn how to drop thumb and double thumb and put all these melody notes in. And we don't actually, a lot of people don't get how much power there is in that basic strum and how useful it is. So yeah, one other thing about that last version, again, it may be sparse, but I think you could imagine being able to do that on the fly in a jam session, right? Because you've imposed those limitations on your right hand and your left hand, you're not going to get sucked in. You actually can't get sucked in by those melody notes that you're hearing you're in a jam session, you're hearing a gazillion things fly by you, at the second, you're like, okay, cool, I can't do those. I'm just going to play that, find those boom notes and play that, and you'll end up with this wonderful background. You're going to be the most popular banjo player in town, because guess what, folks? The fiddle players don't want you to play all their melody notes. They don't want to give them up. They just want you to make them sound good, and by using that basic strum, you will always make them sound good. Okay, before we leave the basic strum, there is a trick with the basic strum that I wish someone had shown me right off the bat. I put a name to this. I call it the melodic basic strum. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't realize you can do. But you can actually change your melody note a little bit at the back end of this basic strum if you move your fingers in the middle of the basic strum. So with this melody, what we're hearing, da 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 da. See, there's a lot of melody notes, key melody notes that are happening when I'm hitting beat 3 here. Da 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 da. And that's what's sort of making our first arrangement a little melodically sparse. Before we do anything with our left hand, no ornaments or anything, all I'm going to add to this, I want us to move our left hand in the middle of the basic strum. So check out what I'm going to do. On that first bar, instead of just going, on that first basic strum, which is just on the open string, I'm going to hit that. If I slow this down super slow, here's my basic strum. Boom, rest, chaka. On the rest, I'm going to fret a note so that when I do my brush, I've got a different note ringing. So listen to what's going to happen. Right? And then I'm going to go up to the 3rd fret and then move again. So what I'm doing there, I'm playing the open first and then getting my finger in here on the 2nd fret for the brush. So I got... So the note is changing. Try that. Okay, and then on the next beat, I'm going to start up at the third fret, and I'm going to move it again. So I'm going to start my boom chaka. I'm gonna move down for the brush. So what I end up with is this. I'm going to put the tab up for you to take a quick peek. Okay, so you'll see here, I'm playing the open first string, but then you'll see for the brush, you see I've got my finger down for that brush on the second fret. And then I go up to the third fret, and then you'll see for the brush, I've got my finger moves down. So my finger's moving. That's what the first bar is going to sound like. Okay, so if you do that, I call that a melodic basic strum, and it's a very tricky technique. Not many people do it, I don't think. But if you add that into your basic strum, you can get an awful lot of melody. You can hear how I'm already getting almost all the melody notes I would need in this tune to play Old Joe Clark. Okay, so I can't tell whether you guys are good with that. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, cool. Okay, so that's step one. So step one is, yeah, good. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. So step one, before step one, we found the melody. We learned how to hum it. We hummed it with the boom chukka. We limited ourselves to the basic strum first. We found those key melody notes, and then we ended up with this. And then we took a little side step. Did the movement. Okay, so we've got great potential. We haven't. Do you have a question?
Yeah. I'm just reading the question from the chat, which is, what's the difference between the melodic strum and a hammer-on?
Oh, yeah, sure. Good question. A hammer-on, we're about to do hammer-ons in just a second. Well, so the melodic basic strum, your rhythm is still going to be boom, rest, chukka, right? Boom, rest, chukka. Nothing's happened in the second beat. There is no hammer on. I'm not hammering on. I'm just changing my finger movement. So for instance, here's my basic strum. 1, 2, 3, 4. On 3, I'm just going to put my finger down, but I'm not hammering it down. So the rhythm is still 1, rest, 3, 4, 1, rest, 3, 4. What's going to happen? We're going to get to a hammer-on in just a second. Hammer-ons happen 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that second note comes in. So let's look at hammer-ons and pull-offs, because that's where I was about to go. Anyway, so hopefully that explains the question. Kathy's giving me the thumbs up, so that's good. She's in charge of this. Okay, cool. So we've got this awesome way to play any tune, and it's like the best way to back up a fiddle tune. It's going to make us so popular. We're going to be like the Zen master banjo players. We can play any tune, and it's also easy enough that we can imagine ourselves being able to do this in a jam session with a tune we've never learned, because we've stripped so many things out of it that it's like, yeah, I've got some confidence. Like I can do that. And we go on like that for a while, and it works. But then, like, after a while, it's just like killing us. There's this hole, and we can't help. We're going to go crazy if we don't fill this hole. in the melody. And it's like we can't leave well enough alone. So the first way we're going to learn how to fill this hole is by using hammer-ons, pull-offs, and slides, our left hand ornaments. So not only are we going to fill this hole, a lot of people think of this as we're just going to fill it melodically. I think more importantly than the melodic aspect of what's about to happen is the rhythmic aspect of what's going to happen. Because up to now, with what with what we've been able to do, the rhythm we get is always that boom chugga boom chugga boom chugga. We always got that rest in, right? By adding the hammer-ons and pull-offs, we've got what Pete Seeger called in his banjo book Chattanooga rhythm. Now, it has nothing to do with the place Chattanooga. It is just that is just a 4-syllable word that Pete Seeger seemed to like, and he's Pete Seeger, so I'm going to do it too. So Chattanooga, Chattanooga. Now we've got a different rhythm. We've got, when we're doing the basic strum, we've got this, but when we add the hammer-ons and pull-offs, we've got a different rhythm. So let's just quickly look at what's going on there. So let's pretend we're going to do a basic strum on the first string. We'll do this really slow. I'll just do one, and you get ready to play this back for me. So I'll do it really slow and try to play it back at the same tempo. Play that. 1, rest, 3, 4. Rest, 3, 4. Okay, so if I was going to add a hammer-on, say I was going to do a hammer-on to the 2nd fret here, you'll notice what happens is 1, 2, 3, 4. All of a sudden, that second beat, the rhythm is filled in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The rhythm's filled in, but also there's a little bit more melody in there. I've got a second note in beat 2, and I'm gonna have a bit more. I'm gonna have a different rhythm and a bit more movement in the melody. Now, sometimes, like on this tune, we've got da 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 da. There's a lot of key melody notes that we're hearing that are happening on this 3rd beat. And with the basic strum, we've always got that brush on the 3rd beat. Now, sometimes with our hammer-ons and our pull-offs, what we're going to do here is we're not necessarily going to be able to get exactly the melody notes on the right beat, but something we can do with the hammer-ons and pull-offs, which is a really valid strategy, is sometimes we don't have to get the notes exactly where they are actually being placed. Sometimes if our banjo arrangement just sort of follows the direction of the melody, that's going to be enough. Especially, remember, a lot of the times we're playing as an ensemble, so especially when we're backing up a fiddle, we don't necessarily have to be like playing note for note on top of that fiddle player. Sometimes if our backup is just sort of headed in the same direction at about the same time, that's going to be good enough. So for instance, in Old Joe Clark, in that first part, what I'm going to do, I'm hearing that that 2nd fret of the 1st string, da 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 da. I'm going to want to get that in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a hammer on in that first beat. So instead of on the open string, I'm going to hammer on 0 to 2. So everybody do that. Do a hammer on from 0 to 2 on the 1st string. Cool. Now I'm going to do a pull off 3 to 2. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go. So I'm going to pull off 3 to 2. Basic strum still. The only thing we know how to do with our right hand is the basic strum. So I do a hammer on 0 to 2. Now I'm going to do a pull off 2 to 0. And I'm going to play the open 2nd string. So I did a hammer on 0 to 2, 3 to 2, 2 to 0, open 2nd. And then the next phrase, I'm going to go 0 to 2, 3 to 2. Now I'm going to do, for that last bit, I'm going to slide on the 2nd string from 1 to 3. And remember, you don't have to, don't have to wonder what your right hand's doing, because your right hand's just always doing that basic strum. So let me share the tab with you, and I'll show you what we've got going here. And you can we'll just look at the first two bars. So this is what we got going here: 0 to 2, 3 to 2, 2 0, open second, 0 to 2, 3 to 2, and here comes a slide from 1 to 3. Okay, I'll give you a chance to play through that tab a couple times. Okay. So I'm going to send you all this stuff. So we're shooting through this. Hopefully you got. So what I'd end up with here is. Now, again, it's just I feel like this what this arrangement that we just did is again a backup arrangement. It's on its own. It's like it's still sort of missing. In fact, I feel like melodically speaking, the arrangement we did right before, where we had that melodic basic strum, was a bit closer to the melody. But this has got a really nice bounce to it. All of a sudden, we've got that other rhythm, that Chattanooga rhythm going through it. And although the melody notes aren't hitting at the exact right time, it's gonna, again, with a fiddle player or even behind somebody singing, the melody's headed in the right direction at the right time enough that it's gonna be a nice sort of counterpoint to the melody. Now, the thing is, once you get to this step 2 and you're adding the ability to do hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides, all of a sudden there's a gazillion ways you could do it. One of the best things about the first step is, assuming we're all hearing the melody the same way, that first step, there's only one right way to do it. You find those boom notes, you play it, and that's it. As soon as you start adding things, there's a lot of possibilities. So this is just one way. I'm not saying that as you add hammer-ons and pull-offs and slide till Joe Clark that this is the way, because remember, the first thing we talked about, there's no one right way to play any melody. This is just an approach. There's other ways you could do this. But now we've got now we actually have 3 versions of Old Joe Clark that we can work on, which is cool, because even though the first one was really simple, it still had, it probably had it does have a different rhythm than this one. They're all different variations, and they're all things you're going to be able to come back to once you decide which your final version is. Okay, so now we are going to, so we've got this great way of playing tunes. We can get melody in with the movable melodic basic strum. We can do hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides. Man, oh man, we can play tons of great stuff. But now it's just killing us. It's like this third beat, it's just like driving us mental, because we can't play a clear melody note. We're stuck with that basic strum. It sounds beautiful and full because we've got the brush going, but it's driving us nuts that we can't get a clear melody note in here on beat 3. So that's where the double thumbing technique comes in. So double thumbing, some people call this double noting. What I consider to be double thumbing is when you're playing a melody note and then your thumb plucks a 5th string, and if you do that twice, you fill up that same amount of time as the basic strum. So what ends up happening is you got a melody note, a 5th string, melody note, 5th string. So all of a sudden we're going to have a clear melody note on beat 3, that's what we're lacking with the basic strum. If you just only did the basic strum, you would sort of never have that clear melody note. You could get that melody note, allude to it with the brush, but never have it clear. So we'll look at the double thumbing. We're going to actually look. I want to talk a little bit about technique before we get too into this. So, because inevitably, maybe some of you are just at the, just doing the basic strum mostly and haven't done a lot of double thumbing. I think this is, to me, like the most misunderstood of the techniques, and it's sort of the most commonly sort of not done well. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Not done properly with the right hand. So I just want to talk a little bit about what's going on with our double thumbing. So when you're double thumbing, again, you're playing melody notes on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those notes that are happening on 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, those backbeats with the thumb, those are what I call rhythm notes. And I always tell people when they're learning double thumbing that if you're doing double thumbing right, in my opinion, again, the listener should feel those thumb notes but not hear them. The listener shouldn't really be aware of them. I'm not saying that they're inaudible, because they're not inaudible, but they're more of they're almost like subliminal, those fifth string notes. So part of that to me is the way you play it. Now we all when we're learning how to play, usually our teachers will teach us when we're doing our basic strum, we're going to do that brush and like lay our thumb into that fifth string. I call that setting the fifth string. And I always watch down here. I watch that thumb come down. I watch that fifth string. I need to see that fifth string come down on the brush, because then I know that all a person has to do is release off that string to sound the string. Well, it's the exact same concept with double thumbing. When I play a melody note, I'm going to set that fifth string, and then on the second beat, I'm going to play that fifth string. Now, what you can't have, this is like, you can get away sometimes with having bad technique in the basic strum, but in my opinion, in the double thumbing technique, you have to have this working right, mechanically speaking. And what that means is, like I say, like when I go to play that note, my thumb's going to come down and load that string. But I'm going to show you some really common things that I see people doing when they're double thumbing. So I'll see people play that note and their thumb touches at the exact right time. Okay? Just like everyone's been telling them to do. But then it comes time to play that note, and then they pluck that string. That is wrong. That is wrong. When you play that, when you set for that double thumbing, your thumb has to come down and load that string. And I've gotten to the point where when I'm teaching people this, I sort of tell them, don't even think about playing the thumb string on the second beat. Think of it as a byproduct. It's just you play the note, and then you reset. You play the note and reset, and the byproduct of the reset is your thumb coming off that string. And so when I'm playing that fifth string, the one thing I really don't want to do is I don't want my thumb to come down at all, because it's pointless. Because if I set my thumb string properly and pull down on that string, I've done all the down that needs to happen on this, right? If I come off that string in this direction, well, this guy's just got a hell of a big jump to get up in order to come down and load on the next one. So almost don't even think about playing that thumb string. You can see when I'm doing this, you see nothing's really going on. I always tell people it's almost like having a guitar pick in the shape of your hand attached to your wrist. Try doing that and just make sure. And since I've been teaching on Skype, it's actually, you can look at your own hand when you're doing this. Some things you shouldn't be seeing. You shouldn't see you shouldn't see your thumb come down below that string. You're sort of, if you do that, if you're seeing your thumb come down much of anything while you're double thumbing, you're sort of doomed, to be honest with you, because once you get going fast, you're not going to be able to get your thumb up above to reset. So it's just like play, play, reset, play, reset, play, reset, play, reset. Don't think of your thumb playing actually between that note. It's just you're resetting your hand at that point, and there's going to be, your thumb's going to make a sound as you come off that string. All right. Does anybody have any questions? There, no, there's no questions. I can't believe it. No questions. Nope. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so I just had to do that because before, I know that was a bit of an aside because this isn't really supposed to be about technique, but I'm teaching so many people, and I just see that double thumbing technique is so misused often that I had to mention it. Okay, so what does the double thumb allow us to do? The double thumb is going to allow us to get this missing melody note that so far we haven't been able to do in beat 3. Okay, so if we think of this melody, da 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 da, there's so many da 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 da. So now we can get those notes. So let's find those notes. Da.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
I'll interrupt you here. There have been a few questions about your thumb, just to backtrack a second here. A bunch of questions about the thumb, actually. So Rosie's asking, aren't you doing a circular motion with them? I guess asking when you pick, does your thumb come back around in a circle? Or
Yeah, great question.
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely think of it as I definitely think of it as a circle, and so my thumb's going around as a circle. I always tell people it's like it definitely goes around in a circle, and you're I mean, if I had to make it really simple, your goal is to make that circle as small as possible. So what you don't want to see, I mean, you can see what's going to happen is if I come down off that string, then my circle is going to be huge, and it's also going to be like more of an oval, and it's going to be pointing down this way. What I want is it to be going in a smaller circle. I don't think your thumb, when you're double thumbing, your thumb shouldn't be much more than about a centimeter away. I'm metric. I'm up in Canada. A centimeter away from that fifth string, or about half an inch away from that fifth string at any time. So yeah, that's a great question, and definitely thumbs going around in a little circle. These your whatever your noting finger is and your thumb is, it really has to be working as one unit when you're double thumbing. More so, it's more important than almost any other technique, in my opinion. Was there other question?
yeah. There's a sort of a general question about your thumbnail and maybe where you're picking on your thumb.
Uh-huh. That's a good question too. Yeah, I like to have a bend in my thumb. That's actually a really good question, because another thing that I see people doing that I think really screws them up is laying the whole length of that thumb pad on the fifth string. It's too much meat, folks. It's just like when you lay that whole fat old thumb on the fifth string, it's too much meat there, and something's going to go wrong. It's just going to get caught after. You're doing it so fast. I really feel strongly that it doesn't have to be. You'll see different degrees of this. You'll see some people like my buddy Arnie. He's got a real arch in his thumb. It's really just the tip of his thumb, and some of the old players played like that too. I think Fred Cockram. I'm not that intense, but the difference between this, like right now I'm laying my whole thumb on the string. The difference between this and that much of a bend in my thumb is like I've probably taken about 60-70% of meat off that thumb string, and I'm touching the thumb string just really at the tip of my finger. In fact, if I push down, you can see where the string was on my finger. And I find that makes an awful big difference. That's a great question, because that is a common thing. I see people trying to double thumb and just like almost laying the whole length of their thumb on that string, and it can be. I think it can be really tricky. I think that's one way I'm not saying nobody can do that. Or you're probably just going to show me somebody who can do it, but I think you're making life a lot easier on yourself if you just put a bit of a bend in your thumb joint. Cool. I saw something come up that just said thumbnail. That's good. That's good. I don't use my nail when I pick my thumb. That was sort of a gross message to see. So we're good. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's see what we're gonna have. So now we've got all those dun 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 dun. You could even go through this, and if you wanted to do that same singing strategy, I could go Chattanooga, 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 and then now I'm trying to find the notes on chat and noog, but probably we don't need to do that. We can figure out da 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 da. So I got the open first, second fret of the first, third fret of the first, second fret, open, and then changing strings to the second string, first fret of the second string, then the open first. And when there's a break in the melody there, like at the end, I'm going to go back to that basic strum. So what I'd end up with is something like this. I'd go. Try that. I'll put the tab up for you here in a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that again on the second part. I'm going to go open, second, third, second, and then I'm going to do a slide on the second string, 1 to 3. Okay, so we've done a slide in there. So let me put this. I'll share this with you. Where is it? Share screen. So hopefully you see that. So there we got. This is just the first 2 bars. Okay. Third bar is the same.
Hey, Chris, can you make sure that the tab is actually on the screen? It looks like it's just a zoom image.
Okay. Let me do that again. Sorry about that. There. Okay, here we go. How's that?
There you go. Looks great. Thanks.
Sorry about that, guys. New technology. So there we go. So we got 0, 2, 3, 2. And that last bar. Okay, and a lot of times when you get in on these inside strings, people are pretty good at double thumbing on the first string, right? Like what we're doing in the first couple bars. But then they get into the inside strings and they stop double thumbing and they stop putting that thumb note behind all the. They'll just play those notes separately, just on their own without the fifth string. Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna stop this. That's fine to do. I mean, you don't always have to have that fifth string in, because some people would be like, oh, I don't like hearing that fifth string all the time, you know? But I think anybody who says that probably isn't double thumbing properly, because going back to what I was talking about before with the person listening should feel those strings, I think you should be able to put a double thumb string in almost every melody note without it getting in the fighting with the melody, if you're doing it properly. Now if I'm not doing this right and I'm really like reefing on that melody note, what I'm going to end up with is right. And I don't blame somebody for thinking that sounds like hell, because it does. It's just too much. That fifth string is fighting. But if I'm doing it right and doing that thing where I'm not thinking of actually playing that string, but it's just a byproduct of me resetting, what I end up with is can hear how that's still what it is giving that backbeat. I always think of it, if you see people who leave that thumb string out, and to me it's like not having your drummer. I mean, you can hear the difference. If I leave that thumb string out, that's still the melody. But listen to the difference. It's got so much more drive, and it's like you've got that drummer playing the backbeat for you. Okay, cool. We're good. No questions. Okay, so let's go to step 3. So that was step 3. Will be step 3B, and this is the final step of the many layers of Old Joe Clark. And this is where we're going to incorporate the final right hand technique, which is drop thumbing. Okay, so drop thumbing, there's a case to be made that drop thumbing is just another version of double thumbing, because really drop thumbing just means double thumbing in some ways it means using your thumb twice in that 4-beat pattern. I like to have a different name for double thumbing. I think of double thumbing when your thumb is staying up on that 5th string, and then drop thumbing obviously is when your thumb drops down and gets another note. What drop thumbing allows us to do, as far melodically speaking, is let's go back to what we started with. We started with the basic strum. Our first step allowed us just the one melody note, okay? And then we learned how to sort of allude to that other melody note with that fancy sort of melodic basic strum. But really, we just got the one melody note. Then we learned how to do hammer-ons and pull-offs, which allowed us another melody note on beat 2, right? And then we learned how, we just in our last step, we learned how to do the double thumbing, which allowed us, now we've got a clear melody note on beat 3. So it's cool. We got a melody note, potential melody note. We know how to find a melody note on beat 1. We know how to get one on beat 2 if we need to. We know how to get one clear on beat 3 with the double thumbing. The only thing we have, the only sort of hole in our melody so far with what we've got, is that we don't have a way of playing a melody note on this beat 4, right? Because so far our thumb always, in all of our 2 right hand techniques, our thumb always plays that 5th string up there. So that's where double thumbing will come in. Double thumbing allows us to come down, drop our thumb on either the 2nd beat, which is good, but it's not as important right now. Where it becomes really important is it allows us to get a melody note on beat 4. So let's all the same stuff I just talked about technique wise applies to drop thumbing, and even more so that thing again. Just I'll show you the thing. If I had to say one, if there's one thing I see people doing that completely dooms their drop thumbing, and it seems to be a technique that baffles a lot of people, it's this. So they come down, maybe this is 2 things really. So they come down and everybody tells them, well, you gotta, you play that note, then your thumb comes down and loads the string. So you play the first note and your thumb comes down and loads, on that beat, then you play on the next one. But what they do again is their thumb comes down and their thumb comes down, touches the string at the right time, but doesn't actually load it. So on that 2nd beat, that 2nd beat comes and they actually have to play that string, and then usually what happens is their thumb comes off in this direction again. And again, if your thumb is coming off down off any of these really thumb strings, you're sort of doomed. It's just, you might be able to do it at a slow speed, but what you're going to find is as you get going faster, you're sort of screwed because there's going to be too much right hand movement. So what has to happen in a drop thumb, you got to do that set on the beat before, and then it's just a reset again, and your thumb, you can pull your hand out a little bit just to make that thumb string pop, but it's really about resetting. And you'll see my thumb never goes below, right? It's both when it's hitting the 2nd string first string. You see it never comes down. That releasing off any of the strings with your thumb in a downward motion, in my opinion, might be the thing that screws most people up. It's really, really a bad habit and to get into. And a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff might seem like super minutia and like really A-type to be getting into. But I do this for my living, so I have to get into this stuff. But here's the trap with all this, like this economy of motion stuff with your right hand. All this stuff I'm talking about with the right hand, when you're playing at a slow tempo, it doesn't matter whether you're using good economy of motion or not. So like if I'm playing like slow, my thumb can be doing all sorts of crazy stuff. It's the problem is as you start trying to play a little bit faster, this stuff really comes back to haunt you. So you have to be really vigilant, even when you're beginning and in an intermediate stage and playing tunes slow, to think about this stuff. It's like an investment in the future. If you think about it now, you won't have to worry about it later. So anyways, definitely highly recommend you think about that. And as I was saying, one thing I've gotten from teaching over Skype so much in the past couple months is it's a really great opportunity. You could turn your Skype on, you could start a call, not even invite anybody, and you have a really good opportunity. It's like sitting in front of a mirror, obviously, but a really good opportunity to watch your right hand and see, just see what it's looking like. And you can even compare it to your teachers, and get them to make you a video of your right hand. Anyhow, so if I was going to add a little bit of drop thumbing to this, I'm going to add it just a little bit in this first bar. So check out what I'm going to do here. I'll put the tab up here in a second, but I'm going to still go. So I open, second, third, second. Now that's all double thumbing. And then check it out. Check out what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do a hammer on, 0 to 2 on the first string. And then I'm going to play the first string and the second string with my thumb. And I got that second string fretted at the first fret. So that little move there is hammer on, 0 to 2, then open first, and thumb comes down. And then I play the open second string. So I got... tab up and I'll point to what we're doing there. Let's see here, share screen. Okay, so what we're looking at here is this. You can see where my hand is here, and you'll see this. The T is where the thumb comes in. So I'm just looking at these last couple beats here, which is. Should sound like that. So if I played that first bar, it would sound like this. I'll play that again. Yeah. Last bar here, got a little. This is a little fancy, but I'm just doing. So you'll see that. So I'm playing this right here, 0 to 2, and then I. All right, cool. So now I've got, now I'm able to play this tune how many different ways? I think we've got 5 different versions of Old Joe Clark. Now, again, the thing is that as I add each step on there, there's more and more possibilities. It literally endless how many different ways I could make this work. But I learned so much building up to this final version of this tune. I and what you're going to end up with. Let me play you what I ended up with here. Okay, so I got tons of melody. What we started with was, and then we ended up, then from there we went, and then we added the hammer-ons. Double thumbing. Then the drop thumbing. So you can see what we've done. What we've done. We've built it up from almost nothing, from its absolute most bare bones, unmelodic element, up to something that's very melodic, and we now know how to use our 6 techniques, our left hand and our right hand techniques, to fill all those melody notes. Now the thing here is, folks, before you go and start filling all those melody notes, now comes your chance to put yourself into this. Now there's some aesthetic choices that you have to make, because just because you can fill all those melody notes, it's not necessarily always going to be the right thing to do. Some people like to play more melodically. Some people like to play more sparse. And I think a lot of people, I think the best approach is to know there's moments when you can afford to play more melody on the banjo, and moments when it's right to sort of step back from that and put yourself more in a backup position and more of a supportive position, which is some of those earlier versions of the tune would be better for that. And then as you get more melodic, to me sometimes they become more like banjo pieces. And there's a real difference between, to me, there's a real difference between a banjo piece and the way you would approach the backup to a tune. They're almost two different things. The way I would approach playing a tune as a banjo piece as opposed to the way I would back up a fiddle player or even a singer or something. So that brings us to about 3:20, and I believe I'm supposed to open this up for questions.
Yeah. And Chris, there seems to be a question on the table here.
Yeah.
A couple of questions. What kind of finger dressing do you have?
Finger dressing? Are you talking about my gross fake nails?
Yes, your disgustingly gross fake nails.
Well, one of the things we're not hearing about much in the media is the hardships that banjo players are going through with their nail salons being closed. So I've been forced to start using these weird looking press-on nails. I usually go and get acrylic nails done at a place around the corner from my house about once every couple weeks. And I get them done really, really thick, like extremely thick. Like I've had to talk the guy into keep making them more and more thick. Although I actually get the index finger super thick, and then the middle fingers a bit thinner. Speaking of minutia, and I get that. I've been doing that since I was in my early 20s. I've always used fake nails. I like the tone, and I like the consistency of tone because they obviously never break. You can use, some people like using finger picks, like Frank Evans uses a finger pick. I used to do that when I was busking, but that's my favorite tone, is the fake nails.
And folks, Frank's doing a workshop tomorrow. If you haven't signed up for it, you still have time to do that. So, Chris, have you ever found that it has any impact on the health of your nail bed?
Um, I mean, if I take these off, the nails are a little bit thinner than the other nails, but I feel like my nails have gotten used to it. They're not like I've literally been wearing fake nails for almost 25 years now, let's say. And I've never had any problem with my nail underneath. It's a little thinner than the regular nail, probably just by virtue of being covered all this time. But I've never had a problem. Like never had any sort of fungal bloom or anything gross like that happen.
We could probably do another couple hour workshop about right hand fingernail maintenance for clawhammer
Lucky
playing.
your ears.
But I do have a question for you, Chris. A good question here from Angelina, asking about alternate ways to fill in the long notes at the end of a bar. Do you usually just stick with the basic strum there, or do you have a go-to pattern or something that you use at the end of a phrase?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, like sort of in this sort of basics, technique, I would say you're dealing with the basic strum. So in the example of old Joe Clark, da 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 da. Right, I'm gonna just when the melody sort of stops and hangs out on one note, I'll do the basic strum. Eventually, I mean, I consider this a more advanced technique. Eventually, you can start taking stuff out. Like I'll often, if you watch me play, I will leave actual rests and I take the brush out. That's sort of a whole other thing. But one thing I'll just tell you, my trick with rests in clawhammer is anytime you see me, no matter how much space I end up leaving, you'll notice I'm always tapping like with my thumb. So it's no matter how much rest I put into my playing, there's this other alternate me that's going at all times. So like if I'm playing, you see how my thumb is tapping. That means I can still talk to you and still come back into time because clawhammer pulling stuff out of clawhammer is really tricky because it's such a physical. There's so much physical momentum. If you sort of stop playing clawhammer, I don't know. I guess I can only speak for myself, but I find if I actually stop the physical momentum, I find it really hard to jump back very convincingly, rhythmically speaking, into the rhythm. So I find if I'm am going to leave space like that, you'll see my thumb tapping. So if I was doing old Joe Clark. You'd see that thumb going. I wouldn't necessarily leave that much space in that tune, but you'd probably actually the faster I go, the more chance I would do that. Like so, when I get playing really fast, if you actually slowed it down and looked what was happening, I leave a lot of those rests because it becomes too dense. If you're putting everything in, if I'm putting all those brushes in, there's a chance that the overall sound is just going to be too sort of dense and the melody's not going to be clear enough.
And then along those lines, Chris, your banjo is almost modified to accommodate how much you play with your thumb there. Can you just show
Yeah.
folks the side of your neck?
Yeah, so I have just like it's almost like a scoop because you'll see that quite often. Probably a lot of you have that a scoop down here on your neck. I play so far up the neck that if I scooped, like I'd be losing everything from about the 14th fret down because I play at I guess that's the 15th fret there. And so years ago I saw a great banjo player and builder named Mac Trainum from Virginia who I'm not sure that he's still building banjos, but I think he may have invented this idea of just scooping out the edge of the banjo. And I just did it myself with a jackknife and some pliers years ago, and thought when I did it, and then I couldn't play my banjo, and I thought I ruined it. But then I got used to it.
Are
And
you advising people run out and get a jackknife and pliers to their banjo? That seems a little
no,
aggressive.
no, I advise you to take your banjo to a professional.
There you go.
Professional jackknife person.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We still have a few minutes left, so if you want to jump in with any last minute questions, miscellaneous things,
There were a
doesn't.
couple questions, one or two that we might have missed. One was from Ethan Raziel. Seems like the more rhythmically complex the tune becomes, the more it moves away from the bum ditty. Is that fair?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because that basic strum is is limited both melodically and rhythmically, right? So it's limited by that first, only having that one melody note, and it's also limited by always, especially if you're not doing any hammer-ons and pull-offs, you just always got that one don't daga don't daga don't daga don't daga don't daga don't. So yes, absolutely, that's a really good point.
A number of folks have asked about the alternate string pull off. Can you just briefly explain how you use that in your playing, if you use it?
Yeah, I use it. I don't use it as much as someone like Adam would use it, but I use it a lot. I use it in two different ways. I use it melodically speaking. So what an alternate string pull off is let me just do it in a basic strum. So it's getting a note with your left hand that you're not playing with your right hand. So for instance, if I was doing a basic strum, 1, 2, 3, 4, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pluck the second string with my left hand on beat 2. I'm still gonna my right hand on the melody note on beat 1 is still gonna play the third string 1, but on 2 I'm gonna pluck that string. So I've filled up that second beat with what's called an alternate string pull off. I tend to call them ghost notes actually. So it's allowing me that second melody note. I could have got that same melody note by doing a hammer on to the 4th fret of the 3rd string. There's the hammer on, there's the ghost note. But sometimes it allows you some melodic phrases that you can't get any other way. I use it, where I personally use it more than in melody, is I use it as backup behind my singing. So I'll throw it in. So even like with the basic strum, I'll put it in. So one way I tend to use it a lot in singing is I'll in those rest times that we were just talking about, I will use it as a sort of an event. So like I've a home prepared with saints abide over in the glory land. That's not a good example, actually. I never played that.
It's a great example.
Yeah, I think that works just fine. It's a great rhythmic device.
What's that?
It's a great rhythmic device. I think it works great.
It is,
there.
yeah. Or like, riding on that Dew River train, riding on that Dew River train. Same old train that brought me here is gonna carry me away again. So I'll tend to put it in there when I'm not singing. Just as a way, because it changes the, there's just the basic strum. There's the ghost note. So I tend to use it. I use it a lot behind my singing and backup playing.
Yeah, well, there's so many great little nuggets in this whole workshop. I think folks will be chewing on for a while, and sometimes the light bulb doesn't necessarily go off right away, but may go off 6 months or a year from now. I know that's happened for me a lot over the years. I think we're probably running out of time here. So maybe we'll just say so long and just remind folks that Chris is playing in the concert. And
let's quickly unmute all the mics and let everybody give Chris some vocal and clapping appreciation.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, here we go, everybody.
Yes. Let the chaos
review.
ring.
Chris, there's a lot to think about today.
Good. And as I say, I'll be emailing you all a really good written sort of overview, because I know this is more conceptual. It's not about learning the tune, obviously. The the months and year to come.
So we'll let's see.
John.
I had to mute. It was
Yeah.
started to become chaos there. Thank you so much, Chris. This has been really really nice.
One more quick thing.
Yeah,
If Chris, do you have a PayPal account?
I do. Yeah,
Yeah. So, and is it your email, Chris?
it is. Yeah.
What's your email?
ChrisCoole@gmail.com.
So I'm going to put that in the comments. And a few people in previous workshops said, "Hey, if I wanted to send an additional tip, how could I do that?" You could, uh, chriscool@gmail.com. Not required. You've all paid to be here anyway, but if you feel like it, you're so moved, then there's no starving performer who wouldn't appreciate that these days.
Yep.
And
Oh,
don't forget to join us tonight for the concert. If you're not part of the next workshop, the concerts are streaming free on YouTube and Facebook. You got the links already, and there will be a tip jar out for that. And I'm going to have my moonshine jar with me from the local North Carolina liquor store. And what a fabulous time. And thanks to Brad Kolodner, not only the co-host, but the technical wizard behind all of this.
Amazing. It ran so
Trying to learn
smoothly.
it.
Way to go, Brad.
Thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you maybe in some of these other workshops coming up, or hopefully tonight for the concert. Say everybody one more time, thank you to Chris. I'll unmute you all.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Bye everybody.
Thank you.